All right, it's my pleasure now to welcome on the founder of the Shaka Project, Sean Weir. Sean, how you doing today, mate?
Good, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me, mate.
I guess first off, for those who don't know what the Shaka Project is, explain it and what the purpose behind the project was.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So basically, we are a mental health awareness apparel brand. Okay, so we do t-shirts, hoodies, singlets, beanies, pretty much everything you think of. And basically, the reason that we wanted to get into apparel was basically just to have some sort of conversation starter. So obviously, we know that blokes can find it pretty tough to start that conversation about mental health. So when we thought of this project, I wanted to do something that could leave a bit of a legacy for mental health to really affect people in a personal way. So I thought the best way to do that would be to give someone a t-shirt and say, by wearing this t-shirt, you're giving permission for somebody else to come up and talk and have a conversation and start that conversation about mental health. And it initially started, I wanted to do it for a few of my mates. I thought I'll get 50 t-shirts made up. I'll sell it to my mates, and then I'll put money into a big charity, or I'll do this, or I'll do that, or we'll start more fundraisers and stuff. And within 6 months of starting, it had sort of just exploded all around Australia through social media, through the power of social media. So we thought we can really affect people's lives here, and I've invested a lot of myself and a lot of time as well as a lot of other people here in Ballarat into growing this into more of a national program that we run now. And the message stays the same. You know, if you see someone wearing a hoodie down the street that has a Shaka logo on it, we want that to be an indication that that person has some sort of empathy for mental health, and that you can go up and talk to them and have a chat. And we've been blessed with people that have said that that's actually happened to them. So they've been sitting at a pub wearing a Shaka jumper, and someone else walks up with a Shaka jumper, and automatically they start talking about mental health. And that's pretty much exactly the reason that we started the project, is to start that conversation and continue that conversation around mental health, especially with men. We obviously, we do see a lot of women that reach out to us that, go through our assistant lines, that purchase merchandise, all that sort of stuff, which is great. And it's more than welcome that we can include pretty much anyone we can. But it's starting that conversation and getting those blokes to talk up about their mental health, which is our one goal that we stuck from day one, and we continue to today.
You know, it's the hardest thing. I mean, I know myself, you know, it's extremely difficult for me to even, you know, reach out to friends. I remember a few weeks ago, I got a group chat with, you know, a bunch of close mates, and someone, you know, sort of just reached out and said, you know, something that was pretty heavy. And, you know, something that no one else had kind of known. And it sort of started this almost sharing circle, and it really threw me, because these are guys I've been mates with, you know, played footy with, you know, I've known them for close to 15 years. And, you know, all of this stuff was something I never knew. And I guess that sort of, for me, really showed me just how many people actually are affected by this. So, yeah. Did you find that you had a similar experience with your sort of friendship circles when you did start this?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It was a massive wake-up call. As I said, like, I wanted to start it for close friends and family. I had always been reasonably open with my own mental health struggles and what I sort of went through as a teenager, but I really wanted to, you know, encourage mates and close friends, people in my community. I'm a gym owner here in Ballarat, so I've got the gyms that we were able to do a lot of fundraisers and stuff, and do mental health awareness activities and events and stuff like that too. But I just wanted to do something that was on a more personal level. And once I did that, the amount of blokes that I knew that I went to school with, or that I worked out with in the gym, that had just, they've seen this project that we're doing, and they've just opened up straight away. And it's given me the ability as well to open up about my own mental health a lot more as well, which is a really, really great gift. So I can call any one of my mates right now, and if I'm having a bad day, or if I want to have a cry with one of my mates, I can just give them a call and have that cry with them over the phone, or catch up with them and stuff. And it's got to the point where we have this relationship in our friendship group that it's a discussion we have almost on a daily basis about our feelings. and about how we're getting through stuff and what we're going through. And it's such a great thing to see because, 10 years ago, I definitely wouldn't have had that with the mates I had. 10 years ago, I definitely wouldn't have, called up a mate and said, mate, can I come over and have a cry? I definitely know what the response would have been much different than it is now. So it's given me the ability to do that. It's given my friendship group, my family as well, a great ability to do that as well, which has been incredible. But what you said before, Chris, about, your friendship group and how it ignited a bit of a conversation, that's something that we're really, really pushing for as well. And we have a certain program for it called calling Breaking the Ice program. And it is exactly that, one person in your friendship group that breaks the ice and starts talking about mental health or starts talking about something else. And all of a sudden it breaks the ice within your friendship group, and it gives that dialect between all of your mates to be able to have this discussion and continue the discussion. It's a super important thing to do, whether it be you in the friendship group or somebody else in the friendship group that says, hey boys, let's have a chat about Robbo. I think he's going through some tough times. Let's have a chat with him. Let's sit down with him. Let's check in with him every couple of days. Let's work together and make sure we get through this and back him up, be his mate, be his friend. It's such an important thing to do within friendship groups, especially of males. We recently went out to a footy club where we had the same discussion and spoke about footy clubs being one big brotherhood and people playing together and backing each other up on the footy field. But it's so important to have the ability to back each other up off the footy field as well and off the training track, and looking after your feelings, looking after their feelings, and backing up your bro, but not always in the sense that everybody sees and everybody sees in the public eye. So yeah, look, it's been an incredible movement of where my sort of relationships were back when we first started back in 2019. I've met some incredible people. I've met people that, that I always thought were, this tough and durable people that have come to me and broken down through their mental health. And I've done the same thing to them too. So it's strengthened a lot of relationships, not only my own, but with people around me as well.
Yeah, I guess this might probably be skipping ahead a little bit, but, you do go into communities, to gyms, sporting clubs, wherever, to speak with, in a lot of cases, a lot of, sort of young men. Have you had people who you've just met that night open up to you? And if so, how are you in those moments? Is that like, I understand that would be pretty heavy, but also you're kind of seeing that what the purpose behind the project is essentially working?
Absolutely, mate. It's pretty much a goal achieved for me as soon as that happens. Obviously it can always be pretty heavy, and it can sometimes be a happy conversation. It could be a really, really upsetting conversation. But at the end of the day, it's a conversation. And this happened at the footy club I did last week, where probably about 4 or 5 of the blokes that, this always happens as well when you're in presentations. You can really pick out the blokes that are really, really listening and really taking it all in. And they're the blokes that have seen some stuff with their family and friends or gone through some stuff themselves that are really relating to the message. And I think there was probably about 30 blokes out at this footy club last Thursday, and majority of them came up to me afterwards and said, that was really good. I think the club really needed that. I really need to hear that. I had a guy in here in the Shaka HQ not only an hour ago. He walked up, shook his hand, never met him before. He drove about 2 hours away to get here. And within 3 minutes, he was talking about his mental health. So that conversation, whether it be, really, really upsetting for myself or for them, or really confronting, obviously it can be tough for myself and for them, but it's a conversation, and it might be just what they need to start to get help, or it might just be what they need to just, finally be able to have that conversation with a stranger, and then think, all right, I've had it with a stranger. Now let's go and have it with my mate, or with my parents, or with a loved one, my partner, my girlfriend, whoever it might be. So it can be tough, mate. Absolutely. I've had some pretty tough discussions with people, some really upsetting discussions, which have sort of put me down in the dumps and really affected me as well. But I've obviously tried to make sure that I'm looking after myself when those things happen. And that's another message we try and spread, is to look after your mates. That's awesome, but you got to look after yourself as well. But, I've got so much support around me, and the ability to talk back about my mental health is something that I'm always grateful for as well.
One thing that I've always found is that, as strange as this might sound, sometimes talking to a complete stranger does sort of alleviate a lot of the pressure you do actually feel around sharing. You sort of remove the fear of being judged by a friend or a family member, or, sometimes sometimes you don't even need to have, them to say anything. It's just literally having someone to listen to without that fear of judgment that really can help me in sort of in my sharing. But what was it about your sort of your own struggles and battles with mental health that ultimately sparked the idea for the project?
Yeah, so basically it sort of goes back all the way back to probably year 9 or 10 in high school. I wasn't a great kid, hated school. I went there for social, and that's about it. Went and saw my mates and saw girls, and that's pretty much the only reason I went to school.
You and me both, mate.
And yeah, just hated the idea of being locked in the classroom. I actually secretly loved learning. I'm a bit of a nerd, but back then I didn't want anyone to know that. I didn't want to be the one that wanted to do work. But if I could go back now, I'd take as many classes as I could. I'd do as much work as I possibly could, because I actually love learning different things. But back then I had the idea in my head that I was this tough little kid that had this sort of reputation, and I hung out with these people that had this reputation as well. And we didn't do school. We hated school. We rebelled against teachers, rebelled against people, authority, all that sort of stuff. And I had a great upbringing. My parents were absolutely amazing. My parents split up when I was about 12, but we still had a great relationship. So I pretty much grew up with mum from the age of 12, and the home life I had was incredible. I've got a great older brother. He was always supportive. We never really went without. We're never a rich family or anything like that, but mum always gave us what we needed to get through and support us with everything we did. But I always just had this streak about me that I just wanted to sort of rebel against everything. And again, it was that sort of stigma that I thought was the right thing to do. I thought that was the manly thing to do. I thought that was cool. I thought that would get the chicks, all that sort of stuff, which I think that a lot of people have gone through before. So I got to about 16 and I started to get into alcohol, going to parties and, drinking on the weekends, all that sort of stuff. That slowly turned into, committing some crimes. I'd go to a party and steal some phones, and I'd break into cars, all this sort of stuff, and just pretty much just get up to no good every single weekend. Nobody really knew about it besides obviously me and my close mates that were doing it with me. And then when I sort of hit probably about 18, I started getting into drugs. Actually, it was probably about 17, started getting into drugs, and it started off pretty innocent. Started off with some bongs and weed and stuff like that. And probably a part of me that I've still got now is that I'm very, I always want to push myself to the next level. And when it comes to drugs, that's probably not a good idea. So start off with weed, and then I thought, all right, let's get into speed and pills and this and that. And it got to the point where I was doing drugs at school. I was pretty much every single weekend I was doing something. It started off with my mates, so we do it, recreationally. If we go to a party, we do it. But then it got to the point where I was doing it almost on a daily basis, and not even my best mate knew about it, because I was really ashamed of it. I had this addiction that I was doing it all the time, and literally not one person knew about it. And it got when I got to the age of 18, I was a qualified PT. So I found a passion for health and fitness, which was great. And pretty much out of the personal training school, I started my own business, personal training business. And I started working out of mum's garage. So I set up like a bike and a bench press and, boxing bag and all that sort of stuff, started to get clients. And it was at a time, this was 12 years ago now, where in Ballarat, where I'm from, there wasn't many gyms, there wasn't many PTs. So it was fair to say the business was booming. I was pretty popular. I had a really big client base. I was going pretty well. And probably the worst thing about it is I was a PT and a fitness professional Monday to Friday, and then from about 2:30 p.m. Friday afternoon, I was a drug addict until Sunday night. So I'd go out and get on the beers, get on bags, and pretty much hit whatever I could, just to get a high. And again, not many people knew about it. I kept it reasonably low key. And obviously, I didn't want anyone to know that this personal trainer that was training all these people and was a big believer in health and fitness was also smashing drugs every weekend. So I tried to keep it as low key as possible. On my 19th birthday, I went out to a club here in Ballarat, and I was in the toilet, got in a fight with someone, went out of the toilet, got in a fight with somebody else. So I was in 2 fights within about 30 seconds, 2 different blokes, which I can't remember. And then I walked down to the corner of the main street here in Ballarat and tried to start another fight. And it took about 4 or 5 cops to pull me under, and they pepper sprayed me and chucked me in the back of a divvy van and locked me up for the night. So it was something that I'll never forget. I'll never forget them, throwing me in this divvy van and pepper spraying. I don't know if you've ever been pepper sprayed before, mate, but it is the worst pain you could ever experience. It literally takes your breath away. You can't open your eyes, can't swallow. It's pretty fucked up. They threw me in the drunk tank for a couple of hours, and I just remember that entire night was possibly the worst night of my life. And the next morning I woke up, called my mum and said, can you come and pick me up from the police station? That was obviously a pretty tough phone call, but mum's a very, very supportive person. She came, picked me up, got me home, put me in bed and said, we'll talk about this when you're feeling better. Talk about this when you've come down, pretty much. And that night was really the start of the end, pretty much, for me. It started a bit of a snowball effect. So news got around town really quick. Ballarat's a pretty small community. It's a big city, but small community. So everybody knows everybody talks. So within a week, the whole town knew about Sean Weir, the PT, got arrested for fighting. He was on drugs. He was off his head. It turns out that one of the police officers that arrested me was one of my clients. So I definitely lost her as a client. And my business just crumbled. I lost clients within that week. I pretty much went from one of the busiest PTs in town to having absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And that sent me into a massive spiral. And income, there was none. I was trying to fight this addiction. I was still living at home with mum. All my mates had really good jobs. They were in really good relationships. I had like on and off girlfriends and stuff. I wasn't in anything committed. And probably over the next 12 months, I just sort of tried to rebuild my business. I love personal training. I love fitness. And it got to the point where I was obviously on medication for depression, and it was getting pretty severe when I was getting to the point every Sunday, pretty much I would go for a drive. And this is pretty much so I wouldn't do drugs. This is sort of my outlet. Whether it be Sunday or Saturday, I'd get in the car by myself and I'd just go for a drive. I might drive to Melbourne, might drive to Geelong. I'd just drive as far away from Ballarat as I possibly could. Music, no music, and just get away. And that was sort of my little escape from the world that I'd sort of built myself in Ballarat that wasn't a very good one. So there was one Sunday where I was especially bad. I was pretty roughed up, and I was at a point where I didn't feel like I had much support left. I didn't have, a relationship. I didn't have a family that were sort of, pushing me to be better because I'd pushed them all away. So I was in my car just in a bush area just outside of Ballarat here, and I was parked just in this like on the side of the road, and I was just bawling my eyes out. I think I was there for about 2 hours, just crying. I think I had the footy on the radio. I wasn't even listening to it. Just bawling my eyes out, just wondering what to do next. And all of a sudden I looked up and there was a really, really big tree at the end of this road. And I just thought, fuck it, let's just do it. I can't see my life getting much better. I don't have anything that I want to achieve tomorrow. So I put the foot on the accelerator, and I pretty much closed my eyes. It was probably about 50, 60 meters away, this big tree. And I thought if I hit it hard enough, I won't even feel it. That was my sort of thoughts that were running through my head. And once I sort of started putting the accelerator on, I went into this really strange headspace where I was extremely calm. I was fucking shitting myself, obviously, but I was really, really calm as well because I'd made this decision. This is exactly what I wanted to do. This is the only logical answer in my head. Obviously, in hindsight, looking back at it, I know it's not. But yeah, put the foot down, headed straight toward this tree, and it felt like a minute. It was only about 30 seconds. And all of a sudden I felt this really big thud and this bump. And the first thing I thought was that I hit the tree, and I opened my eyes and I'd sort of skidded off just away from the tree. And I was in this big shrubbery of bush, this just a massive, all I could see was like bush and tree and stuff like that. And the first thing I thought and the first thing I did when I saw all these shrubs, and I sort of rolled to a stop, and this sounds stupid now thinking back, but I got out of the car to make sure I didn't scratch my car. Like I was just about to fucking total it. And the first thing I was concerned about was a few scratches on my car. And it turns out that about 4 or 5 meters before the tree, there was a ditch that I couldn't see. It was sort of like over the rise, ditch I couldn't see. So when I hit the ditch, hit the wheel, bumped me out of the way of the tree, and straight into these bushes. And that was a pretty big wake up call for me. That was just like, well, fuck, I didn't have to hit that ditch. I could have flown straight over it, and I wouldn't be here right now. So that was a big wake up call for me for to go and get some more help. I'd been on antidepressants. I've been and seen people, but I needed some serious help. So I spent a few days in hospital after that, and seeing psychologists and clinical psychologists as well, just to get on more medication and get whatever help I needed. And it took a long time. It took a hell of a long time to get through everything. And, mental health is something that you pretty much live with. There's still days today where I feel shit, and there's still days today where I'm trying to push myself to get out of bed and push myself to keep doing what we're doing here. But after that, the 2 years after that was a better 2 years. I felt like I found my, my ability to come back stronger and come back and try and find these things that will make me feel better and get me through the next couple of years. Eventually, when I was about 2021, so a couple of years after that, I finally got off my medication, so off my antidepressants. And this was a really big moment for me, and it was something that I'll always forget, always remember. I was just about to go away on holidays with my girlfriend at the time, and we were packing our bags, and I was still staying at Mum's house at this point, and Mum sort of came up to me and whispered in my ear. She said, "Oh, have you got your medication, your antidepressants?" And I just smiled at her, and she didn't know what I was smiling at. And I said, "Oh, I've actually been off them for the last 6 months." And she burst out in tears, and she just collapsed on the ground and was just hysterical. And I didn't really understand why. And then it hit me why she was so upset and so, overwhelmed with emotion, because, she'd been at my bedside when I've gone into hospital and tried to take my own life multiple times. She'd been watching me go through all these stages in life where I didn't want to be there anymore. And then I've got to the point where I was able to, go see a doctor and go through the processes of getting off medication, and step by step getting off nice and slow and doing it in a really, really healthy and precise way. And it was such an emotional moment for both of us that we sort of got through it together, which, we think back now and still think about that moment. And it's such a pinnacle moment in this entire story, really. And it's what sort of encouraged me to, do the stuff that we do here at the Shaka Project, moments like that we can hopefully encourage more blokes out there to have conversations like this with their mum or their dad or their brother or sister, to get those moments, you know, to feel that expression of emotion with each other. So yeah, it was really, really tough, those sort of 16 to 22. I can now say that I haven't touched a drug for, how old am I? 28. So, well, since that night, so what, 11 years.
Wow, that's incredible,
and
mate.
yeah, look, it's something that I know a lot of people that have gone through addiction. I know a lot of people that have gone through, whether it be alcoholism or drug addiction, and it's something that is forever. It continues on, and it's not something you can just kick off and not be able to do it again. And I think surrounding yourself with really, really good people, and surrounding yourself with people that genuinely love you and, you know, don't put you in that position and all that sort of stuff is so powerful to do. And that's what I've been thankful to do with the Shaka Project, is surround myself with people that have that exact, that exact passion for allowing people to be who they are, and allowing people to, you know, not do social norms like go out and get pissed every weekend and get on drugs. Don't get me wrong, I still love a beer. I'll have a beer, you know, every couple of nights, watch the footy, have a few beers. I'll still go out with a few mates. But my mates are the ones that know that Weir doesn't do drugs. That's fine. We'll never offer him drugs. If he gets to the point where he's getting too pissed, let's pull him up. Let's be that mate to say, hey, bring it back a bit, weary, all that sort of stuff too. So I'll surround myself with some incredible people. But that's pretty much the backstory with my own mental health. And the project, as I mentioned at the start, like, it was something that I just wanted to do that had a bit more of a personal effect than just doing fundraisers. We did a lot of fundraisers through the gyms, and I think the most disappointing thing with some of the fundraisers we did was we raised a heap of money. We had a whole lot of people give their time, their money, volunteer, all that sort of stuff. And when we donated to really, really big organizations, we get an email to say, thanks for your donation. And it just sort of set me fucking mad, mate, to be honest. I'm just like, these people have given up their time, their money. They've donated so much, and we get an email say, thanks for your donation. I'm like, yeah, it just didn't sit well with me. I think there was one event where we donated close to 10 grand. And again, wow, we got an email saying, thanks for your donation. And I just didn't think that was enough for these people that have given so much to a cause. So I thought, let's start something that people can give and they can get back as well. So yeah, you can give, and you can buy a t-shirt, and then you can give back to someone else wearing a t-shirt, or you can give back to, you know, if you're sitting at a table and one of your mates says, what's this t-shirt about? And you can say, oh, it's about mental health. Straight away, you've given that mate of yours the ability to open up to you about mental health. So you can give it, you can take it, and it has that sort of legacy where we can continue this conversation, not just getting emails and said, you know, thanks for your order. It's something that we can all sort of progressively continue on as well.
Hearing some of the stuff that you've gone through there, I think back to a place where I was in last year, and a particular weekend. I live alone, and have for, you know, over a year now, during, you know, for especially people in Victoria, one of the toughest years in terms of how it affects people's mental health. And I was dealing with what was quite a serious neck injury at the time. And, you know, the only interaction I had was when I would speak to the barista when I got a coffee. I remember one weekend where I didn't give a shit what happened to me. I didn't get out of bed. I didn't shower. And in my head, things were so bad. I literally laid there, just no TV on, no music, just thinking, I do not give a shit what happens to me after this. And that was really tough to sort of to go through that and experience that. And I'm extremely thankful that of where I can look back at that now and not sort of get choked up and emotional about it. And I can admit that, because it felt like there was no way to get out of that. And I can only imagine that, you know, for a large part of that, for both yourself and your mother, you probably both felt like there was almost no light at the end of the tunnel dealing with everything around this.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And you know that feeling that you experience, it's something that so many people that go through these moments, they can probably relate to. And that's like the fact that you said that is so good because people can relate to it, and it makes people feel less alone as well when they have that light bulb moment of fuck. What Chris just said, that's exactly what I went through, last year or last week or today. That's exactly what I'm going through, and it's something that's um, such a positive thing for people to hear, because the biggest thing with mental health we've found with the Shaka Project is that people that go through stuff, often they think that they're crazy. They think, oh, fuck me, what's going on? Like, I can't get out of bed. I can't get to work. I don't want to go to see my mates, anything like that. I'm fucking crazy, but all the boys are out there having fun. They're fine, but I'm not. But we just don't know. Like, all those boys out there could be going through the exact same thing. But that's exactly what we're talking about. But the fact that we can have these discussions and say these things, like I've been in that position, been in that moment where I didn't want to get out of bed, ignites that light bulb for people to say, fuck, I'm not alone. I've experienced the exact same thing as Chris experienced. I'm feeling that right now. That makes me feel much more comfortable that I'm not losing my mind. And it's such an important thing to do. And it's, especially when you're in that moment, I completely understand that moment. You don't see anything else. You don't see any sort of light at the end of the tunnel. It's pretty much just what you see.
You literally have tunnel vision. You just literally, it's all you see.
Yeah. I speak about this time where I used to go away a lot. I used to go to Melbourne and stay in the city just by myself. I used to rent out a hotel and pretty much just sit at a hotel by myself and get up next morning, go to the gym, and drive back to Ballarat. I used to do it all the time. And through this period, I'd go to these hotels and sometimes I'd literally have to stop myself from going to a hotel that was like a high rise or that had a balcony. Because I got to the point where I'd go to walk in the room. The first thing you do when you get to the room, you're like, oh, how cool is this? Check out the view. That's cool. What do we got? We got 2 beds. We got a bathroom. That's sick. First thing I did was check out the view, and the first thing that went through my mind was, this would be a good spot. This would be a great spot to jump. This would be a spot, great area to do it. I did that more times than I can imagine, and it was such a relaxed feeling. I wasn't scared. I wasn't petrified. It was just something that just came off my mind. And, that was, in hindsight, that's absolutely frightening, to have someone that thinks that straight away. But it used to cross my mind all the time of this is a great place to do it. This would work well. I could just do this and that. You sort of plan it in your head. And it's that tunnel vision that we just spoke about that's extremely scary and extremely frightening, but it's something that needs to be talked about, because again, if we talk about it, it makes people that are in that moment right now feel a little bit less alone, a little bit less crazy as well. So if we can continue to talk about that, continue to ignite that conversation about that tunnel vision, about how you're feeling, about things you think and go through your head, I think we can, start to make little changes and stuff that can have massive effects on these suicide rates in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a really good segue. As I was reading just before that, Ballarat, where you're from, specifically has a suicide rate 30% higher than the national average, which is, when I read that, that absolutely blew my mind. I mean, as someone from Ballarat, I guess, does that make what you're trying to do that much more crucial and important?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think regional is really, really important for us. Especially, we did a New South Wales tour in April where we tried to get to as many regional towns in New South Wales as possible. And, we went to towns like Mudgee, Griffith, went to Newcastle, Terrigal, a few other sort of little towns. And it's really, really, really sad why we went to these regional towns, but the pretty much the only reason we went to the really regional towns were because of the suicide numbers. We did our research and we saw that Mudgee had a higher suicide rate than Sydney CBD, and we had Griffith that had a much higher suicide rate than some other regional towns in New South Wales. So we use the statistics to choose where we'd go, because that's what that's where the conversation needs to go. That's what needs to happen in these towns. And it's the same thing in Ballarat. We do a fair bit here in the town, but it's country places of, out of sort of general regional Victoria, all the farmers that are going through drought up in New South Wales, Queensland, and then floods and then fires and all those different natural phenomenons that are destroying their businesses. And we're losing so many farmers every year to suicide. It's absolutely frightening. And, there's obviously Sydney and Melbourne and all these states are going through all this COVID stuff at the moment. The mental health response is huge, and to be able to get into these sections and into these smaller communities, as well as the big cities and the CBDs and the capital cities, is super important, just to create that community, create people that can start the conversation and continue the conversation as well. As I mentioned before, Ballarat's a big city, but a small community. So everybody knows everybody. Everybody talks, everybody has discussions, which is great. But yet we're still losing a lot of people to suicide. And we did an event up in Orange in New South Wales it's probably about 3 years ago now. It was before COVID, so it might have been the year before COVID. And the reason we went up there is we had people ordering from our store. I think we had about 15 to 20 people from Orange order stuff within like a week of each other. And I did a call out on social media. I said, we've got all these orders from Orange. Can somebody email me and just say, what's going on? Are you a group of mates? Are you getting behind it? Is it a footy club getting behind it? And I got a message from a girl and said, we're just losing people. They relate to the message, and said we lost one guy to suicide, and then his best mate that couldn't hack life of theirs mate. He took his own life about 4 days later after the funeral. And then, there was a family member from him, and it was just such a snowball effect. And, they lost, 10 blokes within a month of each other that all knew each other. And it was really, really frightening to see. So it was something that we had to do to get up there. And, we're not going to solve this mental health problem. By any means, we're not going to rid the nation of suicide. I don't think that's humanly possible. It's something that's a reality, and it's obviously an upsetting reality. But if we can all do our part just to work together to change these stats, to get these blokes talking, get these blokes understanding that there's more answers, there's more things that they can do for their mental health, there's people they can talk to, there's help they can seek, that there's no shame in seeking help, then I think we can drastically change these very, very scary stats, and the stats that are unfortunately increasing every single year.
Yeah, it's crazy. I had a guy named Nick Bloom on the podcast a few episodes ago, and he's a mental health presenter, mental health educator, and he said something which really hit me. He said, sadly, I'm never going to be able to work my way out of a job. I would love to do it, but there's just no way possible. And it is one of those things you realize, as much good as you can do in this space, unfortunately, there's always going to be an increasing demand. Does that ever sort of hit you? And I don't want to say you sort of not give up hope, but, sort of hit you and go, no matter how much good I do here, I can't solve this.
Mate, 100%. That's absolutely spot on. And I think it's really, really hard when I hear about somebody taking their life in the community, or maybe that someone that I've known or been connected to. That hits really, really hard. We had a suicide in Ballarat of someone that I knew. It was probably this time last year, and it absolutely wrecked me. It destroyed me for a week. I just hit rock bottom. I couldn't get out of bed. I just thought, fuck, we're trying here. We're really, really trying. Obviously, it's not our fault. It's not related back to what we're doing. We're trying our absolute hardest, but it does hit you pretty hard when you think about the fact that, we get so many messages every single day saying, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for doing all the work that you do. Thank you for the post. It makes me feel so much better. We've had people say, you've saved me from doing this, or you've improved my day, you've improved my week. And that's great. That's awesome. but there's also people that we're completely missing. There's people that don't see our stuff. There's people that see our stuff yet are still going down that path. And that's a really, really sad and distressing thing about this entire subject that we're trying to battle, is that there will be always, there will always be work there. There will always be a demand for people that need to seek help and that want to seek help. So yeah, mate, it's extremely upsetting. It hits you really, really hard when you discover that someone's has taken their own life or has self-harmed or whatever it might be. It does affect you in a different way than it used to. But at the end of the day, I think the best thing that happens from when you hear about these things is you think, all right, let's step it up. We need to work harder. And that's what we did when the first lockdown hit. I sat down and thought, all right, this is going to be really, really tough on a lot of people. So what I'm doing now is great, but we need to, 10x what we're doing. We need to reach more people. We need to target more people. We need to be doing more podcasts. We need to be doing more content. We need to get more people understanding that it's okay to feel shit. It's okay to feel horrible. It's okay to have a really bad day. Because over the next 12 months, there's going to be a lot of people that have a really, really bad day. So it's a bit of a push for us to continue and to do more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, let's get into the podcast now. It's called 100% with Sean Weir. The one thing that I truly appreciate about this podcast is the fact that you are getting people to share in this form. Now, it's one thing to sort of open up to someone and have a really difficult conversation, just mate to mate, or just, person to a stranger, but doing it in a podcast form where your strangers can listen to it, your family can listen to it, your friends can listen to it, is not always something that people will be happy to do. So I appreciate that, because I know it's not for everyone, but I think it is really great to see that more and more people are prepared to go, here's exactly, I'm okay to talk about my issues, because I know this will give someone else I know, or someone else that's listening, the confidence to probably do something similar. Talk about that whole process and, how that's been for you, for your personal mental health, and then also for, how you've been able to have these conversations with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the roll-on effect that you can have on people that you don't see as well. So, most of the time, most of the podcasts that we do, unless they're sort of with guests about a certain subject, are completely, we completely wing it. I think there's one on there with Jake and Andy, who Jake works here at the Shaka Project, and Andy's he's with Headspace Ballarat, and they're two of my best mates, and they come in here, we turn the microphone on, and we just talk, and we just sort of discuss, what we're feeling personally, and what they're feeling, and what we can get out to the community. And I think that's such a powerful thing, because it's authentic. It's not it's not saying what people want to hear. It's saying what people need to hear, and people are thinking and feeling and going through themselves. That there's a lot of podcasts out there will say, all right, well, do these 5 things to improve your mental health, and they'll give you instructions of what to do. But like this podcast, we're able to chat about what we've been through and how we've felt, and that relates more to people. You want to be told what to do for your mental health. You want to be understood about what's happened for your mental health, and you want to hear somebody else's story and think, oh my God, I'm not the only one, or that's inspired me to go and seek help, because I want that moment that he's had with his mum, and all that sort of stuff too. So we try and keep it as authentic as possible, and we do the same thing with the Shaka Project too, just to have that roll-on effect with people that we may never even meet, may never even talk to. This guy that came to the Shaka office just over an hour ago, and he said, I've been following you guys for a while, and I just want to come in and have a chat. And I said, do you follow social media? He said, no, I don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook. I just found a podcast that you did about 6 months ago. And from there, I've just listened to all your podcasts. So a bloke that I've never met before, he's about 2.5 hours away. But he just couldn't speak highly enough of the podcast and what effect a certain episode had on his mental health. And that just gives you that satisfaction of going, okay, well, all I do is sit here and talk to a microphone with my mates or by myself. That seems pretty easy to me, but to somebody else, it could be life-changing. It could be something that really, really affects them in a positive way. So I think it's really important to get to people in any way you can, whether it be in video form, podcast, content, and just be authentic, be yourself, have the message that you want to produce and that you want to put out there, have that be a message that's completely authentic. It's not made up. It's not faking. It's not, trying to push a stigma or anything like that. It's something that people just need to hear and something people can relate to. And I think a big thing when it comes to content and stuff that you're giving people is giving more than you take. And this is something that I've always done with businesses is just give heaps of content out, just give heaps of gratification, heaps of love, heaps of service, because eventually it'll come back. Eventually you build people that in your community that want to relate back to your community as well. So we'll pump out podcasts, we'll send off merchandise for free, we'll do this, we'll do that, for no other reason that we just want to give people as many reasons as we can to feel good and to feel like they're safe and feel like they're in a community. So I think that's super important to be able to grow your community and allow people to feel like they're not alone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember doing it. I've been very fortunate enough to have a number of people in the mental health space, whether that be someone like yourself, or I had a man named Brian Jeffrey who's worked as a clinical nurse and has his own mental health service now. And he did an incredible episode sort of around lockdown, and my mum reached out to me and sort of said how much that helped her. And, hearing that, like, I couldn't care if she was the only person who listened to it. Like, that's really all you need in the end of the day. You just need one person to sort of take something from it. And, the justification behind all of the time you spend putting it together and doing whatever you have to is there. And it's incredible to hear. I love the authentic nature of it. And, the fact that it just, all it does is it does create that cycle effect, as you sort of mentioned. And it, is going to help X many people, men, female, come out and sort of start their talking process, whether that's in a small way or a large way. So it's incredible to see.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And it's something we do obviously with our podcast and stuff, but even with our content too. So you might see like on the Shaka Project, we swear a lot. We get pretty emotional in posts. And there's been a few people that have called us out and said, "Oh, why do you swear so much? Why do you do this? Why do you do that?" And the answer is that is us. That's authentically us. That's, when we do our quotes, we do our black quotes, probably like one or two a day. And 98% of those quotes are how we're feeling ourselves. So
yeah,
if we go down the street and someone's rude to us, we'll put up a post saying, "Be fucking kind." If we go down the street and somebody smiles at us and it improves our day, we'll put up a post, if you see someone there smile, give them yours. It's 100% authentically us. We're not going to put on there stuff that we don't personally believe. We're not going to put up stuff that people need to hear, or lessons or anything like that. It's things that people want to hear, that people relate back to. So it's super important to keep that brand authentic, keep the message authentic. We've been approached by heaps of people, wanting to promote our brand on massive stages, and they're TV stars and reality TV stars, and people with millions and millions of followers. But every photo they put up is of their ass or of their tits and stuff, and we're like, we can give you some free stuff and you can get a shitload of followers. That's great, but that's not authentically us. That's not what we're after. That's not what we're going for as a brand. We'd rather have, Timmy from bloody Creswick that has 14 followers put up a post and say, how cool's my Shaka t-shirt, and him
Yeah.
feel a part of our community, then we have some famous person with millions and millions of followers put up a post and say, go use my code for 10% off. We're not about that. We want our brand to be authentically about the community and the people that wear it.
I know you've mentioned it a couple of times here, referencing the bloke who's come in today. Talk about the Shaka headquarters and the space that you have created with sort of an open door policy for, for anyone to sort of, drop in, hang out, have a chat.
Yeah, for sure. So we're located literally in the middle of Ballarat CBD, which is an awesome location. And we've pretty much established, it's our warehouse. So we've got all of our merchandise here. All their orders and stuff come through here, and we send them off from here. But it's a pretty big building, and we thought we could do a lot more with it with what we first planned. So we've got a shop up here. You can come up and buy Shaka stuff. We've got the podcast studio, which I'm in right now, which is 100% dedicated just to podcast and content. But we've also got a hangout room or a chill out room, and basically it's a couch. We've got an Xbox in there. We've got books. We've got one of those soccer tables, which I'm not very good at. And it's basically somewhere that people, if they want to, they can come up, they can hang out, they can bring their laptop up, they can do work, they can study there, do whatever they want. They can come and chat to us. We're very relaxed, very low key up here. But it gives them the ability to escape, the world for a little bit. A judgment-free zone. They can come up and talk about whatever they need to talk about or they want to talk about, or they can come up and just talk absolute shit. We don't really care. It's just somewhere that people can escape from work and escape from whatever they might be going through at home or at work or wherever it might be. And we found it's been a really amazing move for us because we've been able to bring so many more people into our community. Complete strangers, as I said before, like people that walk up and within 5 minutes we're talking about mental health. We had an electrician up here, an older bloke that didn't know what he was, what our whole brand was about. He came up to fix the aircon, and he asked, what are you guys doing up here? And we said what we do with mental health brand. And within a minute of telling him what we did, he was sitting down and talking about his mental health. And that was just incredible. Just the ability to have that. And, he went and bought heaps of jumpers and stuff. And then I think the next day his son came up and he got all about it and he joined the community. And just having that location where people can just come and talk and just, discuss what they're going through and just hang out with people that are like-minded. It's not only great for us, we love talking to people and having these discussions, but it's so powerful for these people to just have somewhere where they can come and be themselves and open up and talk and have that discussion.
Have you thought about where you sort of want to move to next with the project and sort of how you think you can keep growing and be as effective as possible in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to get all around Australia, to be honest. We've done our New South Wales tour. We want to do that again. We want to do a Victorian tour, so get around to footy clubs, to gyms, stuff like that, and just do as many events as we possibly can, wherever it might be, footy club, country footy club, whether you're in Victoria, New South Wales, all around Australia, job sites, all that sort of stuff. Just get to as many blokes as we possibly can just to continue this message on. Again, try and get that roll-on effect. So go to an event in South Australia and get a group of 10 blokes talking about it. They can go and tell their 10 mates, and it rolls on and rolls on and rolls on. So if we can do that over the next 12 months, that's exactly what we're aiming for. We want to continue to grow where we are here in Ballarat. We're almost growing out of this warehouse here, so we may need to upgrade our warehouse in a few weeks or a few months. But from here, mate, is just to continue our message, continue our brand, and get as many blokes and women talking about mental health and starting that conversation and helping each other out and getting through this pandemic and the next 10, 15, 20 years together.
Absolutely. Sean, you're an absolute star, mate. Thank you for everything you do with the project, and all the best with everything going forward.
Thanks so much, mate. Appreciate you having me.
No, all good, mate.